Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we're going to do a little disassembly and maintenance on this little guy right here. This is the Ruike Hussar. Hussar, I'm not quite sure how to say it. Hussy? I don't know. I kind of like the Hussy, so I'm going to call this guy the Hussy. But anyways, it's an interesting piece. The P121-B is the better way to talk about it. But we're going to go ahead and take it apart here, and what I suspect is going on is we got multi-layer construction, because you got G10, you got these two big screws, but this one doesn't actually go all the way through, so we're going to take the pivot off here, take this off, then there's going to be yet another layer of screws underneath it, which is fine, just a little bit more involved, that's all. Looking forward to taking this guy apart. Ruike, I guess is how they want to be pronounced, is a weird brand. They are owned by Phoenix Lights, and I've said this a couple of times now, but they seem to be doing surprisingly good work. And I say surprisingly just because, well, a lot of budget Chinese brands are not doing great work. Hey, is it T8? No. Is that? No, it's T6 still. Maybe T7, actually. T7? No, it's T6. All right, a man can dream, right? But anyways, Ruike seems to be doing better work than most of your Chinese budget brands here. And so it is nice to see 100% that they're putting in the effort. And, you know, as far as those kinds of brands go, they've impressed me more than anybody else because I'm yet to handle a knife by them that was a complete and total whoa there. That's ugly. But it was a complete and total train wreck, which is good, unlike Real Steel, for instance, where I've had the train wreck happen, or at least I've watched it happen. And so I like that, and I'm always curious to see more of their stuff with you know, the fear, but also, you know, the dream that I will not ever find the one that they do just awfully, the one that just sucks, because I really hope that that's not the case. Wow, what are the freaking chances of that? Setting the washer down on edge? Damn, I'm good. But anyways, so I'm always curious to check more of these guys out, and I want to thank very much my buddies Frankie and Bert over at the Birdshot IV channel for sending this little guy along. This is, yeah, I'd loaned them a Ruike. They got this little guy in, so, I don't know. He is hoping. It's always tough for me to figure out what to do with these little micro-brand sorts of affairs. But, yeah, got to try and give them a fair shake. But at the same time, if I gave everyone a fair shake, I would do nothing but give micro brands fair shakes. And that's not as interesting to me. Because for every gem, there is junk. That's maybe a truth about the world, I suppose. All right. So that's kind of cleaned out there. They use some sort of a very heavy grease in there, which is fine, I guess, but just not super impressive to me. And means that this is going to require a little bit more cleaning than perhaps it would have otherwise needed. But the action was actually pretty solid even before that. The centering was decent, you know, so I feel like it's not like I'm going to be having to make a world of difference here in order to get everything up and running. So, you know, at the very least, do some good here. That's all I can really ask. All any of us can ask is do a little good in the world, I suppose. Go ahead and use this already dirty cloth first to wipe off the bearings, and this is just going to do the initial de-gunking. Then what I'm going to do is hit these again with a cleaner cloth to really get things better cleaned off. But you can see here this nasty stuff coming off already. That's yeah. I've always been vaguely curious. Like, look, you know, I say this on a number of occasions, but I'm very, very curious about the actual mechanics of what goes into the decision-making of, you know, these things at the factory level. Like, if I need to make 1,000 of these for $50, how am I choosing the grease that I'm using? Am I trying to find one that is optimally tuned for action, or am I just finding whatever fell off a truck and I can buy really, really inexpensively? You know, I don't know how much of a role that actually plays for them in terms of the final pricing and whatnot. But either way, because, I mean, San Renmu makes a lot of knives, and San Renmu is who's making the Ruikes, by the way. But anyways, you know, San Renmu makes a lot of knives. I assume that they've got, you know, preferences and ideas here, but maybe it is literally just what's cheap this week, and they make it happen. I don't know. But as a result, this is why I tend to advocate that you do these disassemblies. because just putting a little bit more care. Look, the simple fact of the matter is that a person, the final owner of a knife, has, and I'm using a 10-weight nano oil here, by the way, but the final owner of any knife has a much better, motivation and has much more time to give, particular love to any individual piece than any factory worker ever will for pretty much any company, custom makers aside. And so as a result, it is very possible, generally speaking, for even a person who's never done much in the way of disassembly to leave the knife in a better state than it came to you in. And especially with budget pieces, a little tiny bit of tweaking can go a long, long way towards improving actions and just making the knife overall a nicer piece. And so this is part of the reason I always recommend these disassemblies, just because you can make a real difference. Don't feel like, well, the factory knows better. Well, generally, yeah, they're skilled, and I don't want to diminish their labor and such. But at the same time, come on. Gotta pick that up. And there are two standoffs here. There's this little guy, and then there's actually the stop pin, which is thicker. So keep that in mind as you're doing this. But anyways, you can make a difference very often, even if you're not super experienced and whatnot. Because you give a damn, and you're willing to take the time to clean everything out, and you can use nicer lubrications, things like that. And so, yeah. Again, I don't want to impugn the factories or anything like that. This is just an economy of scale issue. You can't afford to give that much of a damn to any one knife, as the final owner might in, practice. So, there you go. All right, we now have everything back together here. Well, okay, that's not remotely true. We now have the relevant pieces back together. What I'm going to do now is use a little bit of blue Loctite here. This is a thread locker compound here. I'm just going to, you can see they've got some remnants of a red Loctite on here, but red usually means permanent, but this didn't fight me at all. So either somebody's taken this apart already, or it's not actually red Loctite or something. Who knows? But either way, I'm just going to put a little bit of blue thread locker on there to make sure these don't back out. Not that that's often a big deal. And I'll screw these guys in here. Then on the other side, we will drop that onto here. Go ahead and put in the pivot screw, which moves us up to T8. So I'll do that. Come here, T8. Perfect. And here we go. Put this guy in here. Just slide that in. We'll leave it roughly not that tight for the moment, and then drop this guy in here. Although, actually, I could fully tighten it. It's this screw in the back here has very little effect on the action or anything, because it's just holding down this chunk of G10. But all right, let's see where we're at. Ooh, that is smoother. Go ahead and tighten that down. Okay, no play. A little tight. Let's see if we can relax things a bit. Oh, yeah. That's a nice action. Let's see if I can smooth it out even. This is markedly smoother than when I started. A little less gritty, a little bit more consistent. This is an action, honestly, they should be proud of. Centering is right on, actually, which is nice. Actually, I've introduced a little bit of play, so let me tighten it up just a little bit more here. There we go. Perfect. Alrighty. Action is very smooth. That was easy. Anyways, hope this is interesting to you. Keep an eye out for a full review of this guy coming up here soon. And mostly have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.